Welcome to Diceshaker Podcast. My name is Jordan Brown. I am the host of the Diceshaker Podcast. With me, as always, the man behind the scenes, Tyler Hartley. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome, Jordan. Let's go.
What a weekend. What a weekend of football. Lots to talk about, lots to get to. We'll go through Saturday, we'll go through Sunday. But we're going to start with the breaking news. Today is Tuesday, October 15th. Last night, the Bills played the Jets. The Bills won 23-20. There's a little bit to take away from the game, but what everybody wants to talk about is what happened this morning as both teams announced trades. The Jets have traded a conditional third-round pick to the Las Vegas Raiders for Devante Adams, and the Bills have traded a third and a seventh, I believe, for Amari Cooper and a sixth. We'll kind of take it team by team. We'll start with the Jets. Obviously, Devante Adams has been available for a little while now. He's been held out with a phantom hamstring injury or something because you can't legally say I'm not playing until you trade me. That's a holdout. You lose paychecks for that. So he's just basically faked an injury for the last couple of weeks. People have been speculating where he's going to go. Was he going to go to the Chiefs? Was he going to go to the Ravens? He did post a picture of Edgar Allan Poe to his Instagram last week. Do you know who Edgar Allan Poe is? He's a famous poet who swear to God, who lived in Baltimore, and he's famous for writing a poem called The Raven, which is why the Ravens are called the Ravens. That's Edgar Allan Poe.
So that was like foreshadowing it.
Well, that's obviously what people right. Why did this dude post Edgar Allan Poe? Because obviously they must have been very close with the Ravens. They end up going to the Jets. He reunites with Aaron Rodgers for a third-round pick. And from the Raiders' perspective, I obviously really like the trade. You have to get Devante Adams out of there. The deadline is coming. He was never going to play for you. And even if he was going to play for you, he's not going to help. Your problems are ones that Devante Adams cannot solve. And his contract is up at the end of the year. So he was going to walk anyway. So now he ends up at the Jets. The Jets have obviously been probably the busiest franchise this year. They've already fired their coach. They changed play callers. Nathaniel Hackett no longer calling plays. They are having Todd Downing. Some of us refer to him as Dumb Todd, who is by all measures a terrorist. That man has enacted violence and emotional damage against many people for a long time, myself included. I do not forget the 2002 Tennessee Titans season. Nobody should. But anyway, so Todd Downing's there calling the plays now, and they've basically handed the entire franchise over to Aaron Rodgers, which I understand why they made that move, why they did that. The Jets have literally never had a good quarterback for the last 50-some-odd years. Joe Namath retired in the 70s, so when you go that long without a franchise quarterback, you will do whatever you can to get it. And they are now all in on this one specific year. So much so that the condition on that third pick is if Devante Adams makes an all-pro team or if the Jets make the AFC Championship game, then that turns into a second-round pick, which would be incredible value for a 32-year-old receiver who needs a contract. So they are very, very clearly all in on this year. They're putting everything behind it. Really not too worried about what's going to happen next year. I would imagine next year Aaron Rodgers will not be playing football. And if he is playing football, I doubt it will be for the Jets. Devante Adams most likely will not be on the Jets next year. They will probably be very bad next year. So they are all in on this year, which I understand. Listen, banners fly forever. If you can get one, get one. The problem for the Jets with this trade is similarly to the Raiders, where they had problems Devante Adams couldn't solve. So do the Jets. Mm-hmm. The Jets' problem right now is the same problem they had when this roster was put together in the offseason. It's the same problem they had when they got Aaron Rodgers last year. They can't block. They don't have an offensive line that's able to protect well. We saw that last night in the Bills game against a Bills defense that really doesn't have a great pass rush. There's really not anybody in that Bills defensive line that scares you. Mm-hmm. They don't blitz a lot, and they're still able to generate a bunch of pressure. And Rodgers, being 41 years old, I think he is now, coming off an Achilles injury, he is not able to create out of structure the way he used to be. The arm is still there, the mind is still there, but it's gotta. He's the rich man's Kirk Cousins in a lot of ways, where it's like he's not going to be able to move, but if it's there, he can execute it. Mm-hmm. And listen, the Devante Adams, I'm sure he'll play well. We'll talk about the Amari Cooper and the Bills in a minute, but obviously a bit of a unique situation where they are running at Rodgers' offense. Devante Adams knows exactly what Rodgers wants out of his receiver, so their timing will probably come back pretty quickly, and he'll probably be pretty good. But again, if they're not going to be able to block, they're not going to be able to win late in the year. But I also understand why they're looking at their division and they go, okay, so the Patriots, they're done. The Dolphins, they're done. We should have beat the Bills last night, didn't do it, so we can still make a run at this division. And then once you win the division, all you need to do is win a game or two, and you're in the AFC Championship game. Mm-hmm. So I understand that. I get why they did it. Like I said, I don't think it's going to work. I understand why they did it. And what's interesting is sort of how that receiver market shaped out, right? So, and then we can use that to kind of talk about later in the day. A couple hours later, another trade's announced. Amari Cooper is traded to the Bills. The Bills are all in on this year as well. Not so much so because the clock is ticking like it is with Aaron Rodgers, but there are only going to be so many prime Josh Allen years, and you are yet to capitalize on one of them. So this is clearly a trade with the Chiefs in mind of how do we win, how do we beat the Chiefs. We need to have as much firepower as we possibly can, which is why they've done things like the Keon Coleman draft pick and the Curtis Samuel signing that hasn't worked. And basically they're just trying to have as many weapons as they possibly can so that when it comes down to a game late in the year, they always have something that they can go to theoretically. Mm-hmm. Their problem's very similar to the Jets in that I don't think they can block the best defenses in the league. Not as big of an issue for the Bills because Josh Allen is obviously able to still create out of structure. We saw that a lot last night. Mm-hmm. And what we saw last night too is that when you get the good Josh Allen game, it's as good as anybody else, and including Mahomes. Like the best Josh Allen and the best Mahomes, I'd probably give the edge to Mahomes, but it's very, very close. Yeah, and you can most certainly win a Super Bowl when you're getting the best out of Josh Allen. You absolutely can. In fact, the best Josh Allen can make up for holes in your roster, as we saw a lot last night. So I like the trade. Amari Cooper, sneaky, only 30 years old still. I feel like he's been in the league forever. He's one of those guys that like showed up to Alabama when he was like 17, and so he got to the league when he was like 20. He's just always been super young. So I think Amari Cooper still. He needs a contract in this year. Will the Bills be able to afford to pay him? Probably not. But I think for the position they're in and how they have to win that division this year. They must win that division. So. For them to make the move and now that offense really right they're gonna line up they're gonna have two good running backs, two solid tight ends, two good receivers, so a lot of options for them there. We'll see how it goes. Like I said, I it doesn't change anything for me in the AFC. Like I don't think either of these teams is now a contender with the Chiefs. Mm-hmm. I honestly still think the Ravens are better than both of them after what we've seen the last few weeks. So, not anything earth-shattering from a trade from a overall big picture perspective of these trades. But what is interesting now is what the wide receiver market is. So coming into today, we knew Amari Cooper was on the trade block. We knew Devante Adams was on the trade block. Other guys that could possibly be available, DeAndre Hopkins down in Tennessee. The Titans are an abomination. He's on an expiring contract, so they're probably going to look to move him. Candidates for more receivers. Obviously, people think about the Chiefs as being that ever since Tyreek Hill left. Philosophically, I don't think that's what they want to do. I don't think the Chiefs feel pressed to give up assets for a receiver. Yeah. I think their philosophy largely since they dealt Tyreek has been similar. Again, another similarity between them and the Patriots dynasty of we'll have our quarterback make up for the receivers. We'll turn Juju Smith-Schuster into a viable NFL receiver. The Rashee Rice thing, obviously, is disappointing for them, but I don't see them investing heavily in a receiver. I could see the Ravens doing it. Again, sort of the same thing as the Bills, where it's just we need to stockpile as many weapons as we possibly can for when that game comes with the Chiefs. We want to have everything in the arsenal that we possibly can. And Lamar Jackson really has never had like a true X receiver. I think DeAndre Hopkins would fit really well with them. So that's definitely a possibility there. So we'll see. We kind of know what the market is now. It seems like a third-round pick is what you're going to have to give up to get one of these guys. So we'll see how that shakes out. There's been some rumors about the Dolphins guys, specifically Tyreek Hill, being available with shit going so south there if they just kind of wanted to do the hard reset. Again, I could see it. Tyreek Hill, I don't think is going back to the Chiefs. Again, I don't think they'll pay the price tag. I don't necessarily think he fits with what the Ravens do. So I would see him more in the NFC for a team that's kind of thinks they're in contention. Maybe the Lions. That feels like they need an extra piece to get over the hump and isn't too worried about the pick. We'll see. But like I said, interesting stuff. Now that's kind of probably going to kick off the trade market for this year. So we'll see who else gets moved. It's tough in the NFL. It's not like other sports with trades where these things kind of get speculated on for months and months, just because it's difficult to find. Once you know a player in the NFL is being shopped or is getting traded, the price immediately goes down because teams know that if you can't find a trade, you're probably just going to cut that guy and save whatever little cap money you can, at which point you can just pick them up for free. So the price diminishes. Again, that's why you saw today the Raiders fans in my life, one of the more delusional fan bases out there for sure. Not like up there with the Cowboys, not quite the Cowboys, but definitely up there in terms of like they've been like bad for like 95% of their existence, but like every Sunday they talk themselves into their team winning. So,
one good year can do that though.
Yeah, but like when was the last good Raiders year?
I don't know.
2002, like Rich Gannon, like they were good in the 70s and 80s, haven't done shit since. So people talk about that like it wasn't enough for Devante Adams is crazy. A third round pick, like I said, unless you're trading like a bona fide star who has a contract already, that's the other thing, right? Like whoever's trading for these guys, you have to pay them next, right? That's why the Hassan Reddick, people thought they're going to get Hassan Reddick back for Devante Adams. The Raiders don't want Hassan Reddick. Mm-hmm. He doesn't help right now. Sure, he's good. He's going to have a nice player to have, but then it's not going to change anything for them. It doesn't alter the course of their season. And then you got to pay the man. They don't want to do that. So trades are hard to pull off in the NFL. So we'll see how many of them actually end up happening. But it is nice that we got a few to kind of talk about, and it at least shakes things up in the AFC. Again, the thing I've been talking about all year with the NFL is that we're canceling Christmas because the Chiefs are just going to win the whole thing again. So it's at least nice to see teams trying, doing what they can to put themselves in a spot where maybe if the Chiefs get some injuries that they could sneak in there and make the Super Bowl. Again, I don't really see it because again, these teams need offensive linemen, and the one thing that is certainly not available in the trade market is offensive linemen. Mm-hmm. So it doesn't change too much for them. So that's kind of the trade reaction there. We'll get into Saturday a little bit. Was promised a great slate of games on Saturday, and we largely got it.
I think it delivered.
We largely got it. Now, the one, obviously, Oklahoma, Texas. Oklahoma doesn't show up for that game. They lose 34-3. I don't really want to talk about it. I'm not emotionally over it yet. One day we'll do sort of a big picture thing on Oklahoma, but that was obviously horrendous to watch. Oklahoma's offense looked like it was out of the 1930s. Can't complete a pass. Didn't have a healthy receiver. So Texas is still the number one team in the country. Definitely a national title contender, but I think there's some holes there that were exposed against Oklahoma, and a better team probably would have beat them. Then we got Oregon, Ohio State at night. Or sorry, I skipped over Penn State, USC, but obviously I'm going to skip. USC loses 3 straight. They're done. Get them out of there. Lincoln Riley is people are starting to figure out what the jig is with that guy. And Penn State stays undefeated, but still, to me, a very clear cut below Ohio State and Oregon in the Big Time. The Ohio State-Oregon largely delivered. Some concerning things there from Ohio State. So Ohio State was supposed to be like the Death Star juggernaut this year, which they are in a lot of ways. They spent the most money on NIL this offseason, brought in a bunch of guys. They had a bunch of guys who supposedly could have gone to the NFL on the D-line and decided to stay back. Those are guys like Jack Sawyer, JT Tulamayo. And that's what stood out to me largely in that game was I was told, I've been getting told for years that these guys are good players and they could have gone to the NFL and they chose to come back to Ohio State. Isn't that crazy? Couldn't win a rush against Oregon, who had questions on the offensive line, who, if you were going to point out a mismatch going into that game, it was, Ohio State's defense is going to beat Oregon's offensive line. Nope. Went the other way, which is why I lost that bet. Went the other way. Oregon's offensive line played very well. They had all kinds of time. They were able to hit the explosive plays downfield. Denzel Ward, who is supposedly one of the best corners in the draft, got cooked a bunch of times. That was that number 10 dude who got posted up a bunch. Yep. And still, I mean, listen, Ohio State still had a chance to win the game at the end, but in classic Ohio State Ryan Day fashion, they weren't mentally prepared for the late game situation. They let the clock run down too long when they took on the penalty.
Well, that was
an
awful finish to the game.
The penalty there. The Oregon does the too many men thing, which they are now claiming credit for. That was intentional. I don't know how intentional that was in the moment. I think that might be just a convenient thing to be like, oh, yeah, no, we meant to do that, because it ended up working out where they basically gave up 5 yards to drain 5 seconds, which in that situation is a good thing. And then obviously Will Howard doesn't get down quick enough on the last play of the game. They can't get a timeout to kick the field goal. So they end up losing. I think we're going to see that game again in the Big Ten Championship, which will be at a neutral site. I think Ohio State will be favored in that game, and I think I would expect them to win. I think they are still the more talented team, especially on offense. But credit to Oregon. Oregon came in with that's a huge win for Oregon. A win. They were 0-19-1 against top 3 opponents headed into that game. So a big win for them. Big win for Dan Lanning. Kind of legitimizes everything they're doing there at Oregon. Phil Knight, I'm sure, very happy about it. I'm sure he cut a bunch of checks on Monday for fun. So, listen, if you guys listen to the Diceshaker, I took Oregon plus 800 to win the national championship at the beginning of this year. I think they're down to like plus 400, plus 450 right now, so that's looking good. And we'll kind of use that to kind of talk about the national championship here a little bit. This is the most wide open year of college football in recent memory. Obviously 12-team playoffs, so more teams have a chance to win a national championship. But the NIL stuff has really started to spread the talent out more so than it ever has in the past. And so now we're about halfway through the season, and we're in a situation where there are 4 definite contenders. That's Oregon, Ohio State, Texas, and Georgia. 2 of them actually play this weekend. We get Texas, Georgia on Saturday. 4 definite contenders, and then you've got your Alabamas, who obviously 3 weeks ago, they were the number 1 team in the country, beat Georgia at home. Then they go out, they lose to my boys at Vandy. Shout out to the Doors, getting another win this week against Kentucky. Shout out to Diego Pavia. And then they almost blow it against South Carolina again, so people are a little down on them. I think they're down to like plus 1,000 right now. And then that's kind of where like the Penn States and the Miamis and all these sort of like, yeah, they're good, but they're flawed type teams are there. But I think because of the playoff, we are, for the first time ever, if you want to win a national championship, you are going to have to win a minimum of 2 games, which is not new, but 2 games against really good teams. I think it's more open than anything. Like I said, I feel good about Oregon. I think we haven't seen Georgia's best football yet. I like them a lot this week against Texas. I think Texas is inherently flawed. I think their 2 biggest wins, Texas, come against Michigan and Oklahoma. Neither one of those teams have a quarterback on the roster. So that's, they've almost beat the exact same team twice. Just a team with a good defense, terrible offense, and they eventually overwhelm them. So big test for Texas this week against Georgia. I'm very interested in that game. Right now, I believe it is Texas minus 3.5, and they're at home. So that's essentially a pick 'em. Yeah. A pick 'em essentially. So big one there. And then the game we didn't talk about, not really contenders, but definitely a fun game to watch, was Ole Miss LSU. Brian Kelly steals one. Might have saved his job with that win, to be honest. I don't know if he would have got fired after that win, but there might not have been any. You know what I'm saying? Like he would still have a job today if they lost that game. But when he eventually got fired, they would point to that game as sort of one of the reasons why. You can't lose at home to Ole Miss. LSU will never tolerate that. You're not going to tell me how much money Ole Miss has spent on their NIL. They don't care. Yeah. You can't lose that.
That was a game too. Like we both we were watching it. Like there was clearly like a second half adjustment. Like when they came out in the second half, like they definitely got pressure to the quarterback.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know much about those teams, but it's like. What was the issue in the first half or whatever? Like,
really definitely right about the pressure. LSU was not able to win any pass rush situations in the first half, which is death against a Lane Kiffin offense. The Ole Miss defense played really well. I will give them that. Definitely, that's probably the best Ole Miss defense I've seen in a long time. Their offensive line is just not that good, and LSU seemed to figure out something with their protections in the second half. Were able to generate a lot more pressure, which kind of stopped everything that Ole Miss wanted to do offensively. Offensively for LSU, the Nussmeier thing is we start to learn more about these kids as they, we have this idea of what they're going to be before they start to really play, and then once they play, we start to figure out like, oh, this is who you are. And for Nuss, it is very clear that dude knows how to play one way, and it is throw the ball as hard and as far as I physically possibly can.
Yep.
And sometimes that's going to work.
Well, I mean, that's like they won on that play, basically.
The touchdown,
right?
the touchdown to Lacey
yeah.
in overtime is an absolute laser that a lot of guys are. That is an NFL caliber throw, and it is why NFL teams like Garrett Nussmeier. There was also a bunch of overthrows. He was inaccurate a bunch of times. So the jury for me is he doesn't like to run. So the jury for me is still out on Nuss. I don't think LSU. I'm not considering LSU. They are definitely still alive in the SEC race. They're not a national title contender for me. I don't believe in that defense. Ultimately, I don't believe in Brian Kelly to win big games. It's just not something he's ever done before. But he has killed a guy. So that's one thing that people don't talk about.
He's willing to do what it takes.
He did kill a guy in 2010 trying to win national title. Didn't win national title. Got stopped by Alabama. So that's Saturday. We got another big Saturday coming up this week. I'm excited for it. Like I said, Georgia, Texas. There's a couple other ones that I can't remember off the top of my head right now. Alabama, Tennessee, which is great. That was the original rip the goalpost out, throw it in the river game. That's where that kind of trend started. So I'm excited. This game's in Alabama this year, not in Tennessee. So Alabama's not going to rip out any goalposts for beating Tennessee. They have much higher expectations of themselves than that. But that game will be fun. Again, kind of the thing we go back to with college football is we're either going to – college football can be good when the teams are good or when there's hate involved. And that Alabama-Tennessee game, I'm not sure how good either team actually is, but there's a lot of hatred in that game, so that's going to be fun. That's what we had at Ole Miss LSU. And neither one of those teams really that good.
That was a competitive game, though. That was a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, well, an LSU at night is maybe the best environment in college football. Death Valley is a special place. So, that's kind of the stuff that college football can give you. That if you guys aren't watching on Saturdays, you should be, because you're missing out on incredibly entertaining games. And if you're one of the haters and losers, of which there are many, that said that the 12-team playoff was going to ruin college football and these games aren't going to mean anything anymore, go tell the people at the game that the game don't mean shit anymore.
Yeah.
Like I want somebody to walk into Death Valley on that Saturday and go, hey, just so you guys all know, both teams could still make the playoffs, so it doesn't actually matter who wins or loses. You'll get shot, brother. They are not trying. That game matters, man. Those games matter. These games mean something to these people. More so, honestly, these games mean more to these people than the national championship does. There's only a few teams who are actually playing for national championship. Everybody else is playing for hatred. Everybody else is playing so that when they go to work on Monday, that dude in the cubicle next to him that went to Ole Miss has to shut his mouth. Mm-hmm. That's what these games mean for. It's a way of, it's a culture for these people. So the games are going to continue to matter. We're going to look at the slate we got again this week because of conference realignment, because of the playoffs. So those people who say, "Oh, college football is ruined," they got a big dump in their pants and no idea what they're talking about. So that's Saturday. Sunday. A lot happened on Sunday. Not a great, Sunday of games necessarily. A lot of, anything that was close was just because the teams are bad. A lot of blowouts. But just some notes to call out from a few games. Jags Bears in London. The Lunder died a heavy death in that game, mostly thanks to the Jaguars being terrible. My boy Dougie Fresh is on his last legs there in Jacksonville. The only reason he is not currently unemployed is because the Jags play back-to-back games in London, and you can't be in a foreign country trying to work like an interim head coach situation. So they're going to give him one more run this week against the Patriots. If he loses that game with the Patriots,
I was going to say, do you think
I think he's done either way. I mean, he came out after the game and said, "I think we need a culture change," which is basically him being like, "Hey, can you guys hurry up and fire me so I get my buyout money and go kick it the rest of the year?"
What else would that mean? You're the culture.
Exactly. Right. So that's him being like, "Hey, and listen, this
I would rather see him in a place where he could do well, man. I don't hate Doug. I don't hate Dougie P.
No, everybody likes Dougie Fresh. But listen, we're going to go back and look at that 2018 Super Bowl that was won by Doug Peterson at head coach and Nick Foles at quarterback. That historically made it look fucking crazy to people.
Oh, of course.
After what Peterson's done since then, what Foles has done since then, the fact that they went in there and beat the Patriots, one of the best Patriot teams they had, is hilarious. That might look crazy in a few years. Yeah, I don't know. Peterson to me is he'll probably get another job somewhere, but the Jags are. Did we fuck that up or not? We're good. All right. The Jags are. There's many franchises right now who are lost at sea. The Browns are one of them. The Jags are one of them. The Jets could be one of them. They're desperately trying to not be that. But just these teams where they've committed to a direction in terms of they've paid the quarterback, and it didn't work, and now they're fucked, right? Like the Browns, and we'll talk about the Eagles and Browns game here. Let's do it right now. So the Browns lose again to the Eagles. That is the most miserable football situation I've ever seen in my life, because they went out and gave Deshaun Watson an unprecedented contract, $236 million guaranteed on day one. He's going to collect every single cent of that. And their bet at the time was that the offseason stuff is crazy, but it's going to be okay because we know we're getting a franchise quarterback. And they now are paying $50 million a year to, statistically speaking, the worst starting quarterback in the NFL. There's no fix for that. There's no way out of that.
Yeah, no, tough.
We don't have answers for that. There's no you can't bench him, because what are you gonna do? You pay him $50 million to sit around all day? You have to play him. But every day that they play him and they know that he sucks and he's lost it, the team is going to get worse and worse, because in the NFL, your window to win and to earn money is so small. It's so short for these guys. So they don't have, talk about wasted years. These guys don't have weeks to waste. And so every week, like talk about a guy like Myles Garrett. Myles Garrett is one of the two best pass rushers in the NFL right now. Tim and TJ Watt and Aiden Hutchinson. Shout out to my guy. That was tough to see. But a generational player, a Hall of Fame level talent. He doesn't get to play with leads anymore because the offense can't score. If you're a pass rusher and you don't ever get to play with the lead, your numbers take a significant hit. So now we're talking about a guy who may have ended up with, 120, 150 career sacks. Every single week he sees that number go down because he's just not getting the pass rush situations. Yeah. And so it's all the same guys who are minimum guys and are trying to get contracts. And when the team is winning and the team is good, it's better for everybody financially. It's better for everybody's career. And so being in that quagmire, being in that disgusting, awful situation where you are tethered to this guy who doesn't seem like he cares, is going to cash all his money, and comes out there and lays an egg every Sunday, there's no good answer there. That must be the most miserable place in the world to work. And they are truly fucked. And they're fucked for years. I don't know what the answer is here. They're just gonna have to wait this contract.
I was just saying, like, what, you're gonna buy him out? Like, it's a lot of fucking money.
You can't buy, you can't afford to buy him out. I think I saw the figure this weekend. If they were to cut him today, he would count for $170 million against their cap next year.
Jesus,
you can't do it. You literally can't field a football team if that's what you're going to do. You're literally have to fold the program for a year. So you can't do it. So they're just going to have to, every week, they're just going to have to trot this dude back out there and just hope he figures it out and hope he finds it. Oh, by the way, we just traded your best weapon. It's not going to get any better in Cleveland. The Eagles are the benefit. Whoever gets to play the Browns every week is,
so like, okay, like, do you think are they trying to like rebuild while having this contract? Is that
I guess.
What they're trying to do?
I guess. I don't know. You're gonna get a good draft pick. That's nice. Yeah. Like, that's not, what's that helping right now? Like, what are you gonna do?
Well, like, nothing, right? Because what are you gonna get another receiver?
Right. None of it matters.
Yeah.
When the guy making $50 million a year is a bum, you're fucked. Yeah. There's no answer.
Yeah.
There's no answer. So, listen, I'm a Titans fan. We're a disaster. We at least aren't tied up. We can at least have a realistic rebuild where we can have a new quarterback next year. We have good young talent. There's maybe a light at the end. There's not, because we're the Titans and we'll fuck that up too. But there's theoretically a possibility that things could get better. If you're the Jags or if you're the Browns, there's no, like, you should just, I guess, not watch the NFL for a couple of years and just check back in when these contracts are up, because like it's gonna get dark. Unless I guess every week, just hope he figures it out. That's all you can do. Every week, just maybe this is the week, and then by 1:30 of every Sunday afternoon, you have to. Nope, not this week.
I feel like there was a glimmer, there was a quick moment when he would take the field, and there was that maybe it's this week. Like, I think people felt that for a sec, maybe
for a while,
but like,
maybe
there was
for a couple weeks.
You know what I mean? But then now it's just dark.
You just lost to the Eagles, and you want to talk about a team They just lost the Eagles, and the Eagles are a shit show right now. You want to talk about a team that's lost at sea? Did you see the shit? Did you see the Nick Sirianni shit this week?
Yeah.
Did you see him show up with the shaved head?
Yeah. No, it's weird.
So that's
weird.
Crazy.
Weird.
Because that's
crazy,
not like oh, I got a haircut. That's like, yo, what happened? What did you do, dog?
No,
like,
that's an identity crisis.
well, it's like a manic depressive thing.
It's like buying a new car when you're 50.
All right.
You can't afford. Yeah.
So that's how it starts, right? So
Yeah.
so it set the table for Sirianni. So obviously he takes them to the Super Bowl a couple years ago. They lose. He cries at the beginning of it. Probably didn't love that in Philly. They're 10-1 to start last year. They collapse through the back half of the season, get absolutely bounced in the playoffs. Slow start to this year offensively. Defense playing all right. Slow start to this year offensively. And they are clearly calling for his job in Philly, and he has responded in maybe the worst possible way. So he shows up on Sunday. He's got the shaved head. Strange. Maybe shows that this guy's not handling the pressure super well. They go on. They beat the Browns. The offense looks like shit again. Like, yeah, you win because it's the Browns. Like, congratulations. Late in the game, they cut to Sirianni on the sidelines. He's running his mouth at the fans in Philly.
Yeah, dude, like weird shit. Yeah.
So he's doing that, right? So he's what did you say? And it's like it's just such a try hard. Like, oh, this is Philly. They want me to be tough. They want me to talk shit. It's like, no, they want you to put a competent offense on the field, you moron.
Yeah, they want you to win
And then
games.
this is the real scumbag move. Did you know the last scumbag move was? This is where you lose the respect of the entire whatever respect you may have had of that locker room, you've now lost. He's got to go do the press conference at the end of the game, right? And so he knows that he's going to get tough questions about why does the offense suck so bad? Why do you look like that? Why are you yelling at the fans? You know what he does? He brings his kids to the press conference.
Bitch move.
Literal
Bitch.
human shields.
Yep.
To where I'm going to sit here with my 3 kids who I promise you didn't want to be at that fucking press conference. I promise you they didn't want to be there. But I'm going to sit here with my 3 kids so that you can't ask me hard questions. You can't sit here and ask in front of these kids if their dad's about to get fired. So complete cop out. Terrible guy. If I was an Eagles fan, I'd be leading the charge for this guy to be fired. He's going to get fired. I promise you he's getting fired. I don't know if he's going to be fired in the middle of the year, but he is done in that town. I tell you that right now.
No.
Done in that town. And the Eagles got bigger problems too, you know, and their issue isn't even necessarily like, it's not like they gave somebody a contract who didn't deserve it. All the guys they've paid, you had to pay. Jalen Hurts obviously makes a lot of money. He's probably not playing that well. The reason that the Eagles aren't playing that well, and some common theme here, their offensive line is not that good. Mm-hmm. And the resources they've invested into their defensive line, the all the first round picks, the Jordan Davises and the Jalen Carters and the Nolan Smiths, they're not playing that well. Mm-hmm. And that was a team that had to play a certain way to be successful. When they were rolling, they were making the playoffs. It was our offensive line is better than yours. Our defensive line is better than yours. We are going to be physical as hell. Our quarterback is physical as hell. And we're going to have AJ Brown. We're going to have Devante Smith, and we're going to have all these weapons, and Dallas Goedert, and we're just going to overwhelm you with like physical size and strength. And when the offensive line isn't that good, they're getting older. And then when you miss on the defensive line draft picks, it becomes very, very hard to win. And that's why the only way that the Eagles can win games right now is winning 20-16. Which is a tip for you, by the way. One of the best NFL gamblers live right now. Eagles unders, very good right now.
Yep.
They play slow. They're bad. Good. They're pretty good defensively. Honestly, they're not that bad. It's just their defense is on the field all the time because their offense stinks. So, they're in trouble there. I think they will. They're not as. It's not like if we wanted to like tier the disasters in the NFL right now. It's the Browns at. They're an all-time disaster.
I think it's fitting that it's the Browns.
Yeah,
too.
oh yeah.
You know what I mean? It's always been a dumpster fire, and then they're like, now we're completely fucked.
What do we talk about this podcast? We talk about people being who they was when they got here.
Yes, exactly. That's a common theme now. Yeah.
Listen, I don't make these things up. It's like people are like, what? How do you know? So this is how the NFL works. It's like it's all about organizations and ownership. See this with the Jets. They're fucking crazy ass. Bill Belichick called them out last night on the Manning cast, talking. He's like, yeah, well, you know. It's the Jets. Obviously, they're going to fire the coach before they have to. Their owner's out of his mind. That guy has no clue what he's doing. Bill Belichick, who a lot of people don't know this, but some people do know, but I don't know if you know it. He was the coach of the Jets for a day. Did you know that?
No.
He was the head coach of the Jets for a day before he took the Patriots job. One day. And then wrote his resignation letter on a napkin and handed it over and sent him out.
Oh, I do. I know the story. I know. I quickly know that story.
Because the ownership's out of their mind. So so the Jets are who they are before they got there. The Browns are who they are. But if we're tiering the disasters, the Eagles, who are a well-run organization, Jeff Lurie is a good owner. they will be okay. They're not going to be okay this year. They're fucked for this year. They're going to be bad. But they will figure. I have confidence they'll figure it out. So they're not like absolute disaster. They're not like lost at sea. But like they could they could use the lifeboat for sure.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying. It's like we still see them. It's like all right, they're over there in the harbor. Like we're gonna have to get to them eventually. Here we're gonna have to help them. They're not gonna make it back themselves. Yeah. But nobody's gonna die.
Yeah.
Whereas like the Browns is like, listen, but every man for himself out there. Like,
the Browns are Titanic.
No, disaster. So that's that. What else? What else do we want to talk about? The Texans roll. The Ravens beat the Commanders. The Ravens are the second best team in the AFC. I think it's clear at this point. I don't think they can beat the Chiefs. I've seen this from the Ravens before. We've seen the MVP stuff from Lamar before. We've seen them stomp teams in the regular season. The offense is going to be very good. That run game, shout out to Derrick Henry. He looks like still the best running back in the NFL.
Yeah.
That run game is excellent. If they do end up getting one of these receivers that might be available, that will matter. That will matter for sure. But ultimately for me, I'm still going to put them behind the Chiefs because I'm going to need to see it. I'm going to need to see a playoff game, a must-win game, Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes. I'm going to need Lamar to go in there and outplay Patrick Mahomes. I've never seen it before. It's never been done. So I'm going to need to see it before I believe it. But they're the second best team. I thought the Bills were the second best team. Right now, it's the Ravens.
Yeah, it's tough to say the Bills are too. After like barely beating honestly shouldn't even beat the Jets.
I liked a lot of what I saw from the Bills last night. Defensively, I thought they took some steps forward, which is nice. They're getting some good play out of their secondary. They're able to generate a pass rush. That's more to do with the Jets, really. Than
That's what I mean. That's what I'm more looking at. Like it's against the Jets.
Yeah, exactly. Like I said, I think. But if you wanted to say, like the best version of Josh Allen is better than Lamar. So if you're a Bills fan, the thing you can cling to is that if we get the best performance possible out of our quarterback, he is the type of special that nobody else at the Chiefs has. Mm-hmm. Now, in order for you to beat the Chiefs, you're going to have to get the best out of Josh Allen. You're going to have to hope Mahomes doesn't have his best, and you're going to have to hope the Chiefs' defense isn't playing that well either. So it's a very unlikely. The Chiefs are still the favorites, I think, clearly. But we got to talk about something. So it'll be interesting to see.
I think it's a good point. We have some excitement now, at least.
A little bit, and you see the teams trying, right? That's what you like to see is the Chiefs are causing this sort of arms race amongst the rest of the AFC, right? Like the Bengals, it'd be nice if they would participate a little, but again, the Bengals' problem is the offensive line. Like these teams who have offensive line problems, that's never a quick fix.
Yeah,
shout out. We're gonna talk about the Chiefs though. So when the Chiefs lost that Super Bowl to the Bucks. What was that? Was that the 2020 Super Bowl? Was that the COVID Super Bowl? 2020, 2020? I think it was 2020. Yeah, it was. It was 2020. No.
Second last season for Brady,
was it? It was 2021.
Was it Brady's second last season?
Doesn't matter.
Okay.
Second last season.
Yeah.
But they lost that game because their offensive line. Pat Mahomes was under pressure that entire game, and then they went out and basically, again, that's where the Tyreek trade comes from. They invested a ton of resources in their offensive line, hit on a few draft picks, hit on Creed Humphrey, hit on Trey Smith, and then were able to Orlando Brown. They paid Orlando Brown, all that. They've now trying to figure out the left tackle thing again, but they were able to rebuild that offensive line around Mahomes pretty quickly, which that launched the two Super Bowls. That's where those two Super Bowls were won, was on how good their offensive line is. And so as long as they continue to have that offensive line, they're a clear step up, because if you're the Jets, if you're the Ravens, their offensive line is pretty good. But if you're the Jets, if you're the Bills, if you're the Bengals, any other team from the AFC you want to pick, they just don't have the offensive line, and those guys just aren't available. It's the hardest resource outside of a franchise quarterback. Getting a good offensive line is the hardest thing to do in football. So, like I said, it'll be interesting to see kind of how the Ravens, Bills, Jets, Texans. The Texans are. I don't think I'm going to take them super seriously in the AFC yet until I see them win in a big spot. But they're easily going to win that. They're going to wrap that division up probably here in the next couple months. And their defensive line is very good. They could give a lot of like the Bills do not want to see the Texans. I promise you that. The Jets don't want to see the Texans because that defensive line is good and will give you problems. So still some interesting things going on in the AFC, but again, nothing that makes me change what I think about how this is ultimately going to go. What else we got? Chargers beat the Broncos. Chargers continue to be the most Jim Harbaugh team of all time. You see Jim Harbaugh have the medical situation on the sideline?
I did. Yep.
Yeah. No, that was going on. So he's got like an arrhythmia or something like that. He's got a weird heart thing going on.
Am I wrong on this? Did he not have health issues like a few years ago?
Well, he said he's had an arrhythmia before. Because that was the quote after the game. He said I'm 2-0 against arrhythmias, which is I love Jim Harbaugh.
Sick line.
And then I think it was today in his press conference. They asked him like, what would it take for you to like, how bad would it have gotten for you to like leave the sideline, or because people thought he was like going to the hospital or something. And he's like, even my heart would have had to stopped. Like I'm not. And it's like he's the man.
Believe it too.
He's the man. I love that staff. The Chargers defense is very good. Mike Minter, their defensive coordinator, is excellent. He's probably gonna be a head coach in the NFL or take a big time college job very soon. Yeah. He was the D coordinator at Michigan when Harbaugh was there. So they're excellent.
Yeah, I think also too like Bo Nix came out and played like as far as I've seen so far.
Bo Nix,
awful. Like dude, what 4 for 14 for like 20 yards in the first half,
listen,
and then nuclear in the second half.
Yeah, he played fine. Bo Nix is, I think it's the right term to use. I'm not up with you nerds. I believe he's cosplaying as a quarterback. That's what you do when you wear the costumes and shit, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Bo Nix is wearing a quarterback costume out there right now. I'll tell you why. When Bo Nix is back there, watch Bo Nix. Next time you guys watch Broncos game, watch Bo Nix. When he drops back, Bo Nix has 2 issues, right? So his number 1 issue is he doesn't see the game fast enough. He doesn't think it fast. He can't make his reads quick enough at like an NFL speed. Can't see the game fast enough, right? And now that can be overcome sometimes. Guys like Josh Allen can do it. Guys like John Elway back in the day used to do it. If you've got like a rocket cannon special arm, you can be a little bit late on your decisions because you've got the horses in the back to make up for it, right? Bo Nix doesn't have that. Bo Nix does not have the arm strength to play at the NFL level. He doesn't think the game at the NFL level. So what that means is when he drops back, he has 2 options. Every single time he drops back, he cannot challenge any window down the field because 1, he can't see it, and 2, he can't get it there. So he's either got to check it down or he's got to scramble and try to make something happen out of structure. And that's what I'm talking about when he's cosplaying as a quarterback. When he's standing back there, I think we are now at the point. I don't think there's anything going through his mind when he's except for like he's not trying to read anything. He's not trying to move safeties with his eyes. He's not trying to do any of that. He is waiting for I'm going to stand back here and I'm going to wait. I'm going to wait. Okay, I'm allowed to scramble now, and he's just going to try to leave the pocket.
Yeah.
And that is just not sustainable at the NFL level. Defenses are going to start to figure that out. I'm right on Bo Nix. I know I'm right on Bo Nix. That's going to go badly for them. The Broncos are not going to be contenders this year. They're going to lose a bunch of... The fade spots are coming against the Broncos. I'm telling you guys. The Bo Nix thing is a disaster. So, it's not a disaster. It's just he is who he is. Like, it's just not going to work. So, that's them. Steelers, Raiders. We know about the Raiders. They stink. The Steelers announced today that... I was going to say Russell Westbrook. Russell Wilson is taking the 1 reps this week. So he's probably they're probably making the change from Justin Fields back to Russell Wilson. Very interested to see how that goes. I think Russell Wilson is largely cooked. He is a guy who for his entire career relied on his athleticism. I don't think that athleticism is there anymore. In fact, I know it's not because Mike Tomlin, one of the best press conference guys of all time, but they asked him today, can Russell Wilson escape pressure the way we saw Justin Fields do in the game against the Raiders? He's looked dead in the camera and goes, no, he cannot. Okay. All right. I don't know why he's necessarily starting. I guess maybe they feel like they have to do it eventually. They have to give him an opportunity to do it. If it were me, I'd stick with Fields. I think the upside's higher. I understand that the floor may be a little higher with Russ. Because he's just not going to do as much, he's not going to put you in as many bad spots as Fields might do, like decision making and accuracy. But I don't think Russell's going to stay healthy throughout the rest of the year. So the Steelers to me are not contenders at all in the AFC. They're not contenders for that division. They're probably going to, middle of the road. Maybe they get a wild card spot, first round exit. They don't got the goods. That defense is good, but they just don't have enough on offense. And then really the only thing left to talk about here is the Lions and what they did to the boys. Just absolutely murdered them, absolutely destroyed them. Good for the Lions. Everybody's enjoying this Lions thing. And they are a legit contender in the NFC. I don't think there's a team that you can say confidently is better than them every single day. The Aiden Hutchinson thing does matter.
Yep.
That matters a lot. That sucked to see, man. Aiden Hutchinson was... If we had to give out the awards right now, he would be the Defense Player of the Year. He was on pace to have one of those 18, 19, 20 sack years and put himself right in that tier with TJ Watt and Myles Garrett as these are the game record pass rushers in the NFL in terms of you don't have to, it's similar to like true X receivers I've talked about before, where it's like the value is that you don't have to do anything to get them open. You just tell them to go over there and run, and they're going to get open. These pass rushers, you don't have to do anything you don't have to bring pressures. You don't have to overload a side. Literally just let him put his hand in the ground. Chris Jones for the Chiefs like this too. They just let him put his hand in the ground. Let him pick which offensive lineman he thinks stinks, and just let him go. And he'll get the pressures. Michael Parsons is like that as well. Obviously, he's hurt right now.
Yeah.
Those are very, very, very valuable guys. Those guys are not made on, or do not grow on trees, and you cannot replace them. It's not like we're just going to put a guy in Aiden Hutchinson's spot and everything's going to be fine. It's going to be different. And the Lions are a team that has to play a specific way to be successful because they are limited in terms of their talent. Obviously, they have a lot of good players, but I'm talking about the way they play is they want to be able to run the ball, so that they can create the play action stuff, which is where Jared Goff thrives, and then create the explosive plays so that they can build a lead, and then they can play very conservatively on defense because they don't have the guys again there. They don't have like super great corners or safeties. They've got some play. Terrion Arnold, the rookie, I think is good. Deion Branch, obviously a good player. But they want to play conservative on defense. And in order to play conservative on defense, you need to generate a pass rush without blitzing. Mm-hmm. Aiden Hutchinson is very good at that. And by playing with the lead, you create those situations where Aiden Hutchinson can just go get it. That's what happened in this game. They got up early. Now they can play exactly how they want to on defense. The offense has to drop back and pass. They're going to terrorize the quarterback through Aiden Hutchinson, and it's just going to snowball. You're going to give them more and more possessions. They're super aggressive on offense in terms of just they always go for it on fourth down and stuff, which ups the likelihood of like them winning by 30 points, right? Because like if it all just goes right, they're just going to keep rolling you. So they have to play a very specific way in order to be successful. And without Aiden Hutchinson, it becomes harder for them to play that way. It becomes much harder, especially defensively. They're either going to have to survive without a pass rush, which that's hard, or they're going to have to start manufacturing a pass rush. And if they manufacture a pass rush, then that means they can't play as safe on defense, which means obviously more opportunity for big plays. They don't want to play these shootouts. They want to be able to run the ball, right? If they're giving up big plays on defense, that means their offense has to continue to score, which means you have to play more aggressively on offense. That's what they want to do. So anyway, their script is very, very dependent on playing a certain way. It becomes harder to do without Aiden Hutchinson. If you told me that the Lions came out of the NFC this year, I would believe you. I think their home field advantage is going to be big in the playoffs. But I mean, they would be 4.5, 5, maybe 6-point dogs to the Chiefs in the Super Bowl, I think, on a neutral field. So yeah. Again, nothing overly crazy there. In terms of a long-term perspective, but just really sucked to see. And then for the Cowboys, you want to talk again. You put the Cowboys in a situation where it's not Browns level bad, but it might be Eagles level bad because again, it's the guy who's getting paid $60 million a year just stunk the joint out 2 weeks in a row. Can't win like that. You know, they're not very good on the offensive line anymore. They're hurt on defense. Jerry Jones is out here obviously losing his fucking mind. He threatened very funny from Jerry Jones today, so he does a radio show in Dallas, I guess. Every week he kind of goes on there and does an interview or whatever. And the radio hosts, I guess today were asking, well, you know, obviously you got stomped or whatever. Like, what are we going to do? Are you firing the coach? Right? Fat Mike still got a job. Shocker. Fat Mike's never getting fired. So, you know, they asked him a hard question he didn't like, and he basically said he was going to get the host fired. He basically told him, he's like, you know, I can get other people to ask me these questions. So he's tripping out. So things are good. Things are going great in Dallas right now. They're in trouble. They're still alive in that division because that division sucks. I don't think the Giants obviously aren't very good. The Eagles have their problems. Commanders are probably going to win that division, honestly, now that I think about it. I just thought that through.
I think that's the front runner.
And the Commanders are another team where it's like people are like, oh, maybe they're coming out.
They're
of
not for real either.
The defense isn't there. The defense isn't there yet. I mean, they obviously have a very bright future with Jaden Daniels. You got to love what you've seen early out of him, and you can spend a whole bunch of draft picks on you can get your defense good pretty quickly, you know, because young guys can come in and contribute and stuff like that. And they're gonna have a ton of cap space. They've got Jaden Daniels on the rookie deal, so this is when they have to go super aggressive in free agency this year. So they would. If you told me that next year they're a contender in the NFC, I could believe that. I don't think it's real this year. I don't like anybody out of the West. I've said before, I think the Niners thing is kind of finished. So that was a Sunday again. Not a lot of great games to talk about, but just sort of we're starting to see the sort of stratification. Like I said, we talk about we know who the disasters are now. We know who's truly fucked for this year. Some teams are fucked past this year. And we know who the good teams are and like I could probably sit here right now and predict. I think I could probably predict like 12 out of 14 playoff teams. Probably I think, just because I think it's pretty clear right now who's separated, who's not. And speaking of seeing the NFL clear, I'm now 66% through 6 weeks. It's truly, and like I do this. Obviously, I try to be funny. We where there's an element of showmanship and bit to what we do here. Like the numbers are the numbers. Like I'm winning at a ridiculous pace. I just went 5-3 again last week. Lost a tough over on Cardinals Packers by half a point. Packers took a knee in the red zone to end the game, so that could have easily gone over. Bad loss on the Sunday night. I knew that was the wrong bet pretty much as soon as that game started off. I gave too much credit to the Giants offense, not enough credit to the Bengals defense. The play there was just lay it with the Bengals. But that's okay. We file that information away. But this is as clear as I've seen the board, I think, ever for this long of a sustained run. Am I going to finish at 66%? Like, look, the math with the probabilities would tell you no. But I feel great about every single bet I place in the NFL right now. I feel like I've got a shot at everything. We do have a few leans here for next week, just because normally I wouldn't do this. I wouldn't say what I'm thinking this early in the week, but I think there's some value to be given out. I got to pull this up. Give me a second, guys. I think there's some value to be given out. And listen, if I knew somebody who was as hot as me, I'd be hitting them up for picks on fucking Sunday night. So let's see what I liked early. I know I took the Chiefs plus 1.5 at the 49ers. That to me is crazy. I don't understand how the Chiefs aren't favored in that game. I understand the Niners are at home. I understand the Chiefs haven't looked that good through pretty much every week of this season. You know what the Chiefs also haven't done? They haven't lost.
Yeah, no, absolutely. They haven't looked. I mean, they also haven't.
Like
really,
they
haven't really been tested though either.
Yeah, fair enough. But I'm not really like. Are the Niners going to test them? Like I think the Niners are living off a reputation here that like it's not necessarily warranted anymore. In terms of, again, like I think like that team has gotten demonstrably worse from last year. They are now asking Brock Purdy to be the answer. Right before it was, hey Brock, here's the keys to the Ferrari. Keep it in first. Don't crash it. And now it's like, hey man, we got this beat up Honda Civic, and you need to make it go 180. And it's like I don't really know if he's built to do that sort of thing. They've had some bad losses. Obviously, they're gonna be schemed up enough on offense to where they're gonna be, and they still have Debo and they still have Ayuk. The Jordan Mason thing seems to be working. They're gonna be schemed up enough on offense to generate some points. When it comes clutch time, I don't trust Purdy to make the right decisions. And I don't think that defense is where it was before. Certainly not from front end perspective. Bosa is still the man. Fred Warner is still the man. The rest of it, meh. Mm-hmm. I don't think it's that. And so like I said, I don't think the Niners are awful. I think they're gonna make the playoffs. They might probably still win that division. But to give points to the Chiefs right now to me is crazy. So I'm on the Chiefs 1.5. Packers Texans over 47.5. Just two offenses I really like, two quarterbacks I really like. I don't think there's a chance that game isn't high scoring. I guess the downside maybe there is the Texans pass rush kind of beats up on the Packers offensive line, but I trust LaFleur to kind of scheme that up enough. And I've really liked, obviously, everything I've seen out of the Texans and their offense. So I don't know who's going to win that game necessarily, but I think 47. You can't tell me we can't get that 28-21 in that game. Like I think that's a good one. Another over, Chargers Cardinals 42.5. Love the Cardinals overs because their offense is great, their defense stinks. They kind of laid a stinker a little bit this past week offensively, but that's an aberration. I think. I also think the Chargers have they have the floor that Harbaugh teams always have of like they're going to run the ball well. They're not going to put themselves in bad situations. They're not going to turn the ball over a ton. And if you're a team that can't stop the run the way the Cardinals can't stop the run, they're going to cram it down your throat, play action, touchdown. So I don't see a chance that game doesn't go over 42.5. Another over, Jets Steelers Sunday night over 36.5. I think just that, first of all, it's just too low of a total for teams with like competent offenses. This was before obviously the Russell Wilson thing, so I may end up regretting that if he just stinks. Mm-hmm. But the Jets, and then obviously the Jets add Devante Adams, so that helps. I just think the Jets have a baseline competency on offense to where they're going to score at least 20 points a game. And then from a Steelers perspective, again, they're just so simple in what they do that I think they're going to be able to get themselves. One of two things is going to happen in that game. Either it's going to end up like a 20-17, 24-21 type game, or the Steelers' offense will be non-functional. The Jets are going to get a bunch of possessions, and if you think Aaron Rodgers isn't motivated to go out there and have a big game offensively and like quiet the haters and shit like that, you're out of your mind. On Sunday night in prime time,
Yeah.
he's definitely going to try to do that. So 36.5, if we get a defensive touchdown, like we don't need very much to make that happen. So I like that over as well. Eagles, Giants under 45.5. Eagles unders. That's Eagles unders. Both those offenses stink. The Eagles defense is pretty good. Divisional game. I think it'll be tight. 45. Like, it's crazy to me that game is at 45.5 and Chargers Cardinals at 42.5. I don't understand how that happens at all through what we've seen out of those two offenses. And just the pace that the Eagles play at. The Eagles play so slow. They would like to take 8 minutes off the clock every single time they touch the ball. So that's where that one comes from. Do I have anything else? We talked about the Chiefs. And then, okay, we'll do the needle thread as well. I already bet the needle thread. A disgusting Thursday night game. I talk about this every year. We get a few good Thursday nights for the first couple months of the season, for the first 6 weeks of the season, and then when the NFL knows you're hooked and you're in a rhythm, or you're going to watch the Thursday night game no matter what we do, it's shit in your mouth time. It's here's these two disgusting teams that we're going to put in prime time so that every owner can have a primetime game and they can sell the tickets. And it's going to be awful. We got Saints, Broncos.
Yeah.
The entire Saints roster is hurt. The entire Saints roster. Chris Olave, dead to the world. He went out early, killed me in fantasy. That sucked. Rashid Shaheed's got a knee or a hamstring thing. He's getting checked out. Kamara hasn't had a full week of practice all year. Carr's out. We're starting Spencer Rattler, who I have a long history with. It was nice to see him play okay in the NFL. I've come around on Spencer Rattler. He was recruited to Oklahoma as like a 5-star. He was going to be the guy kind of after Baker, and it never really happened. And I've held that against him for a long time. He just so much disappointment there, scar tissue. But it was nice to see him play well. We're coming to terms with the whole Spencer Rattler thing. It wasn't maybe not necessarily his fault. It didn't work out at Oklahoma, but Baker did beat his ass on Sunday, so that was nice to see. So, needle thread. Saints Broncos. Total is 36.5. Another disgusting low total. I don't trust the Bo Nix thing at all. Obviously, I said cosplaying as a quarterback, complete fraud situation, has no idea what's going on back there. I'm going to take the Saints plus 1.5 at home. I think the Saints do have a decent home field advantage in that dome. I don't really like their team that much, but it's a needle thread. I have to pick a side. And then we are going over 36.5, and that is truly based on we are going to get short field. 2 rookie quarterbacks. Neither one of them protects the ball very well. Neither one of them sees the game very well. So I think we're getting turnovers there on both sides of the ball, which means short fields, which means quick scores without time coming off the clock. It's only 36.5. I just couldn't bet. I couldn't bet under 36.5 and then watch Bo Nix pick 6 me to death. You know what I'm saying? So that's a needle thread for this week. The needle thread, we haven't cashed the needle thread. We cashed the needle thread in week 1, haven't cashed one since. Been very, very close. It's been tough. I feel like I've got a good read on these games, but they've been tough ones to call for needle threads. But we're going to continue to do it. We'll do a needle thread every week. We'll never back down from the needle thread. So that's it. That's the needle thread. We're going Saints plus 1.5 over 36.5. A truly, again, email the NFL, write to the NFL, complain about this. We can't keep letting them get away with these dog shit Thursday night games. We only get so many primetime games. We only get so many every year. We're gonna ship games off to London and to Germany and to these third world countries over there and ruin those games. Then we're gonna hear on primetime when we actually want to watch football. We're gonna get Broncos Saints. Get Broncos Saints to the English. They don't care. They don't know.
Yeah, or just hide it away in the 1 o'clocks on Sunday. Like we don't.
Well, it's because when are the Broncos going to get a primetime game again? You know, it's like you got to give. And listen, I'm a Titans fan. All right, we got Monday night against the Dolphins. That was a charity game. That was we should have had 2 have been healthy. We would have got destroyed in that game. But so it's not like it's that never benefits me, but is tough. Now we do have to address something too. Lock of the weeks. Lock of the weeks are still 0-5. Didn't give out a lock of the week last week. Didn't trust it. Couldn't just willingly go 0-6. Now I'm winning so many bets. How do you not trust it? It's in my head with the lock of the weeks now. It's in my head. And that's why for this week, I've already talked about it. The lock of the week is the Chiefs plus 1.5. If I've had one take this year that I've been consistent on, it is that the Chiefs are a juggernaut and clear head and shoulders above everybody else. And now they are going to be catching points in a game against a team who I'm also on record saying I don't think is that good this year. This has to be the lock of the week. We will give out another lock on Sunday to get us back to the even count for the year. To make
2 locks this week.
Well, because I didn't give them one last
No,
week.
I know why. It's just
I owe people a lot.
It's not Nick Sirianno shaving his head level crazy, but it's close.
Well, it's more an integrity thing of like I have to get the lock.
Yeah.
So even when I didn't want to give the lock, you got to give the lock. So we'll have 2 locks, but the first lock is Chiefs plus 1.5. I'll get the other one set by the end of this week. But yeah, that's it, man. That's it for the Diceshaker. That's the episode this week. So thank you guys for tuning in. Rate, subscribe, review us. Give us the 5 stars. If you give us less than 5 stars, you're a bitch. Another big week of games coming up, man. We're gonna have a lot to talk about. Games every day. We're getting close, man. We got KUSA action on Wednesday night, which is gonna be fun. And then we start with Maction in the next couple of weeks here. It's starting to get dark out early, starting to get cold. That's when Maction starts to happen. When it's pitch black at 5:30 in the afternoon and we got Central Michigan Toledo kicking off on a Tuesday night, that's when I'm at my happiest. So I can't wait for that. We're gonna get into all that, man. Long season still here to go. Make sure you're following the social media, especially on Sundays. Again, 66% through 6 weeks. You literally cannot afford not to listen to these picks. I'm giving out free money every single week. I'm up a gang of money. We don't unit shame. We don't talk about how much we bet. I'm up a gang of money this year. Give it all back on Saturdays, but goddamn Sundays are fun. All right, that's the episode. Thank you guys.